We live in a world where emotions often lead us like waves carry a lost ship. We love deeply, we care endlessly, and we attach ourselves to people, memories, and expectations as if they were the air we breathe. But the truth is, sometimes that same attachment becomes the weight that drowns our joy. Have you ever found yourself replaying a conversation long after it ended, or carrying the pain of someone else's choices like it was your own burden? That's what emotional attachment can do. It ties your peace to storms you didn't cause. But here's something you must remember. You can love and still let go. You can care and still choose peace. Detachment does not mean you stop feeling. It means you stop allowing your feelings to control the course of your life. There comes a time in every heart when the noise of the world becomes too heavy to bear, and you find yourself asking, "Why do I feel this way?" That question, that small trembling voice within you, is not weakness. It is the beginning of awareness. It is the soft knock of freedom against the door of your soul. Most people live without ever truly seeing themselves. They react, they repeat, they resist, and they wonder why the same stories follow them from one season of life to another. But awareness, my dear, is the light that exposes those patterns and the first whisper that tells you, you do not have to live bound to them anymore. Awareness begins when you dare to pause. When you stop running from your pain long enough to ask it what it came to teach you. It is the moment you recognize that your emotions are not punishments, but signals. Every burst of anger, every wave of sadness, every echo of jealousy, they are teachers wearing disguises. They arrive carrying messages about the parts of yourself you've ignored. To become aware is to finally sit in the classroom of your own heart and listen. But awareness is not gentle in the beginning. It will show you the ways you've been abandoning yourself. It will reveal how you've mistaken attachment for love and silence for peace. It will uncover how much of your life has been shaped by fear, fear of rejection, fear of not being enough, fear of losing control. And it takes courage to look at yourself without turning away. To admit, I have been living on autopilot, reacting instead of choosing, surviving instead of feeling. Yet the moment you can face your truth without flinching, you begin to unshackle your soul from the invisible chains that have kept it tied to pain. To be aware means to become conscious of your patterns. Think of the times you felt trapped in the same emotional loop, drawn to the same kind of people, repeating the same arguments, nursing the same wounds. You call it bad luck, but awareness calls it repetition. Life repeats the lesson until you learn it. And once you do, once you can see the pattern clearly, it loses its power over you. That is freedom's first breath, the ability to say, I see what I'm doing and I choose differently now. Awareness also asks for honesty, not the kind you offer to others, but the kind you whisper to yourself in the quiet of night. It is easy to blame the world for your storms, but awareness turns the mirror toward you. It asks, what part of me keeps walking into the same fire expecting not to get burned? It reminds you that while you cannot control how others move, you can always control how you respond. Awareness teaches you responsibility, not as a burden, but as empowerment. The understanding that you hold the pen to rewrite your story. Many people fear awareness because it dismantles illusions. It strips away the comfort of denial. When you become aware, you can no longer pretend that your peace depends on someone else's behavior. You can no longer hide behind the excuse that you are powerless. Awareness reveals that you are both the cage and the key. And once you know that, pretending otherwise becomes impossible. You can close your eyes again, but you'll never be blind in the same way. Awareness does not demand perfection, it asks only for presence. To notice what you feel when someone speaks to you with love and what you feel when they speak with cruelty. To notice the tension in your body when you are in the wrong place or the wrong company. To notice how you betray yourself in small ways, agreeing when you want to say no, staying when your heart longs to go. Every time you notice, you reclaim a fragment of your power. Every moment of awareness is a return home to yourself. It is through awareness that healing begins to bloom. Before awareness, pain rules your life. You lash out, withdraw, or numb yourself because you don't understand what's happening inside. But when awareness arrives, you can name your feelings. You can say, I am not angry, I am hurt. I am not weak, I am tired. I am not cold, I am protecting myself. Naming is sacred. To name your emotions is to tame them, to transform chaos into clarity. Once you understand the roots of your reactions, you can water the seeds of peace instead of pain. Awareness also opens the door to compassion for yourself and for others. You begin to see that everyone is doing the best they can with what they know. The person who hurt you may still be unaware of their own wounds, and you too have hurt others in your sleep of unawareness. So instead of bitterness, you begin to offer understanding. You stop expecting others to carry your happiness and start learning how to hold it yourself. That is the quiet power of awareness. It softens your heart even as it strengthens your spirit. To live aware is to live awake. It means watching your thoughts like stars, distant, bright, but not always true. It means pausing before you react and asking, is this emotion guiding me or controlling me? It means forgiving yourself when you fall back into old habits, for awareness is a practice, not a destination. You will forget, you will stumble, but each time you remember, you rise a little higher into your own light. The journey of awareness is not a straight line. Some days you'll feel clear and grounded, and others you'll feel lost again. But that's the beauty of it. Awareness does not promise a perfect life. It promises a conscious one. And a conscious life, even with all its imperfections, is far richer than a comfortable sleep. So the next time you feel yourself unraveling, don't rush to fix it. Sit still, breathe, ask yourself, what am I feeling right now? What am I believing that's causing this pain? Let awareness speak before you act. You'll be surprised how often peace was waiting beneath the noise all along. Freedom does not arrive with fireworks. It begins quietly, with awareness, the simple sacred act of seeing yourself, your emotions, your patterns, your truth. The moment you start to see clearly, you start to live freely, and that is where the path to peace truly begins. There is a kind of pain that lingers long after the wound has closed. You can no longer see it, but you can feel it every time something brushes against that tender place in your heart. You tell yourself you've moved on, but a memory, a scent, a song pulls you back into what once was. That's the quiet ache of clinging. It's the part of you that refuses to let go, believing that holding tighter might somehow fix what has already broken. But healing cannot bloom in hands that won't release the past. You cannot pour peace into a vessel that is still filled with yesterday's sorrow. To heal, you must first loosen your grip. You must stop clutching what no longer wants to stay. Sometimes we cling not because we are weak, but because we are afraid. We fear the emptiness that comes after release. The silence that follows after the noise of something familiar disappears. We think letting go means losing a part of ourselves, but the truth is, you lose yourself by holding on too long. You forget who you are outside the pain, outside the memories, outside the story that's been replaying in your mind for years. There is a time to fight for something, and there is a time to surrender. Healing lives in surrender. It begins the moment you say, I am tired of carrying this. You may not know what life looks like without that burden, but you know you no longer want to live beneath its weight. That is the first step toward freedom. Letting go is not forgetting. It's choosing not to relive what hurt you every single day. It's saying, I honor what was, but I will no longer bleed for it. We often cling to things that once made us feel alive. A love that promised forever. A friendship that once felt like home. A dream that didn't unfold the way we imagined. We replay the moments, wondering what we could have done differently, searching for closure in places that have already closed. But healing doesn't come from rewriting the story. It comes from accepting that the chapter has ended. You cannot turn the page while your fingers are still gripping the last one. When you cling to pain, it becomes your language. You start to speak from your wounds instead of your wisdom. Every conversation, every thought, every decision passes through the filter of that hurt. It colors how you see yourself and how you see the world. But the moment you begin to release it, even a little, light starts to seep in through the cracks. You begin to see that the pain was never meant to define you. It was meant to refine you. There is strength in letting go, though it doesn't feel like it. It feels like breaking, like falling into an unknown darkness. But that darkness is sacred. It is the space where healing takes root. When you finally stop fighting the past, you create room for the present to breathe. You create space for new love, new joy, new peace to enter. Healing is not about replacing what you've lost. It's about rediscovering what still lives within you. The human heart has a remarkable ability to hold on to pain under the illusion of control. We believe that if we remember every detail, we can protect ourselves from being hurt again. But what we're really doing is keeping the wound open. We become addicted to the ache because it feels familiar. Healing, however, asks you to step into the unknown, to trust that you can survive without the story that once gave your suffering meaning. And that trust takes courage. It takes faith in something larger than your pain. Letting go doesn't always happen in a single moment. Sometimes it's a daily practice, waking up each morning and choosing not to pick up the same sorrow you laid down the night before. It's catching yourself when you begin to reminisce and gently saying, no, not today. It's reminding yourself that peace is a choice, not a reward. You choose it in small ways, by forgiving, by releasing, by breathing. There will be days when you miss what you let go of. There will be nights when you reach for it in your dreams. That doesn't mean you failed. It means you're human. Healing is not a straight line. It's a dance between release and remembrance. Some days you will take 2 steps forward and 1 step back. But every time you choose to not dwell in the past, you are reclaiming another piece of yourself. Slowly, you begin to realize that you can love what once was and still not want it back. When you stop clinging, you start hearing your own voice again. The noise of the past begins to fade, and what remains is you, raw, real, reborn. You realize that the closure you were waiting for was never going to come from anyone else. It was always something you had to give yourself. You close the door not because you hate what's behind it, but because you love what's ahead. The art of release is sacred work. It requires tenderness. It requires patience. You cannot rip the past away from yourself. You must lay it down gently, like setting a child to rest. Speak to your pain kindly. Thank it for what it taught you. Resilience, empathy, awareness. And then let it go with grace. For the same energy you use to hold on could be the same energy that could heal you, grow you, free you. When you cling to what hurt you, you keep your wounds alive. But when you release, you give them permission to close. You give your heart permission to breathe again. Healing does not ask you to erase your story, only to stop making it your identity. You are not the heartbreak, the betrayal, the loss. You are the light that survived them. And when you finally loosen your grip, something miraculous happens. The past loses its power. It no longer owns your peace, your joy, your mind. You stop replaying what went wrong and start living in what is right. You stop needing to understand why it ended and begin to trust that it ended because something greater is waiting to begin. It takes bravery to release what once defined you. It takes faith to let go without knowing what comes next. But every act of release is an act of rebirth. You cannot heal what you continue to cling to because clinging keeps your hands too full to receive the blessings meant for you. Let it go. Let it rest. Let peace find its way back to you, as it always will when you finally make space for it to come home. There is a quiet strength in those who can pause before they speak, breathe before they move, and think before they react. In that sacred pause lies peace. Most people live on impulse, reacting to every emotion, every word, every situation, as if the world is constantly demanding a defense. But what if you stopped fighting every storm and simply watched the clouds pass? What if you became the calm instead of the chaos? That, my dear, is the art of observation over reaction. And it is one of the purest forms of emotional freedom. Life will test you. People will misunderstand you, disappoint you, even provoke you. Circumstances will fall apart and expectations will shatter. But in every moment of turmoil, you are given a choice: to react with noise or respond with wisdom. The difference between the two is awareness. Reaction is the voice of the wound. Observation is the voice of the soul. One is born from fear, the other from understanding. When you react, you surrender your peace to whatever triggered you. You give your power to someone else's words, someone else's behavior, someone else's chaos. But when you observe, you stay rooted in yourself. You see the emotion rising, you feel the fire, but you do not let it burn the whole forest of your mind. You breathe, you witness, you allow the moment to unfold without letting it define your spirit. That is not weakness, that is mastery. Observation is not indifference. It's not pretending you don't care. It's knowing that caring too quickly, too deeply, too emotionally can cloud your judgment. It's the practice of holding space for your feelings instead of being ruled by them. There's a difference between feeling anger and becoming anger, between feeling sadness and drowning in it. When you choose observation, you become the sky that holds the storm, not the storm itself. We are taught from childhood to defend ourselves, to explain, to argue, to fight for our place. But sometimes peace comes from saying nothing at all. Silence can be a shield, a sanctuary, a teacher. When you observe instead of react, you give life permission to reveal its true meaning before you respond. You see more clearly. You understand motives, patterns, and truths that impulsive reactions would have hidden. The observer sees not just the event, but the energy behind it. In the quiet of observation, you discover that not everything requires your response. Not every insult deserves your attention. Not every disagreement needs your voice. Some things lose their power the moment you stop feeding them with your energy. That is the beauty of observation. It starves negativity and nourishes peace. You realize that silence is not surrender, it's wisdom in motion. Choosing observation means learning to witness your emotions with compassion. When anger rises, you don't condemn it, you acknowledge it. You say, I see you. I understand why you're here. You let it pass like a wave instead of building a wall against it. When sadness visits, you don't run away. You sit beside it, let it speak, and then let it go. You stop labeling your emotions as right or wrong, good or bad. You simply allow them to be what they are, messengers of your inner world. There is power in being the watcher of your own thoughts. Thoughts will come and go like visitors, but not all deserve a seat at your table. Observation teaches you discernment. You learn which thoughts lead you toward peace and which lead you toward pain. You learn that just because a thought feels urgent doesn't mean it's true. Most of our suffering comes from reacting to temporary feelings as if they were permanent realities. Observation brings you back to the truth. Feelings pass, but your essence remains. In relationships, this practice transforms everything. When you stop reacting, you start listening. You hear what is being said beneath the words. You see the pain behind someone's anger, the fear behind their silence. Observation opens the heart without breaking its boundaries. You no longer argue to win. You communicate to understand. You no longer take everything personally because you realize that most people speak from their own wounds, not your worth. That realization alone can save you years of heartache. Observation also teaches patience. Life has its own rhythm, and not everything unfolds in the timing you wish for. When you react out of impatience, you often create unnecessary pain. But when you observe, you learn to trust the unfolding. You realize that sometimes the best response is to wait, to let clarity settle in before making a move. The universe often reveals its answers in silence, but you can only hear them when you're not drowning in reaction. The truth is, reaction is easy, it's fast, impulsive, loud. But observation takes maturity. It takes emotional discipline. It takes knowing your worth so deeply that you no longer feel the need to prove it in every conversation. It takes understanding that your peace is too expensive to be spent on every small disturbance. You stop needing to win the argument, and instead, you win your peace of mind. Observation doesn't make you distant. It makes you wise. It allows you to stand in the middle of chaos and still feel steady. It gives you the grace to respond from love instead of fear, from strength instead of pain. You realize that the energy you bring into a situation often determines its outcome. So you learn to bring stillness where there is anger, calm where there is confusion, silence where there is noise. That is the quiet revolution of a peaceful soul. Every reaction is a choice, even when it doesn't feel like it. The moment between what happens to you and what you do next is your point of power. In that moment, you decide whether to repeat the old pattern or create a new one. The more you choose observation, the more natural it becomes. You start to live from intention, not impulse. You begin to respond from wisdom, not wounds. And slowly, peace stops being something you chase. It becomes the air you breathe. The world will always test your peace. People will always give you reasons to react. But your power lies in remembering that you are not what happens to you. You are what you choose to do with it. Observe, breathe, trust. You don't have to fix everything or defend yourself every time. Sometimes the most powerful statement is your calm. Sometimes the loudest voice is the one that stays silent. There is a kind of beauty that only stillness reveals, a kind of strength that only silence teaches. To choose observation over reaction is to choose yourself, your peace, your power. It's learning to stand in the storm and say, I am not the thunder, I am the sky. There is something sacred inside you, something that glows even when the world feels dark. It is the quiet flame of your energy, your spirit, your essence. It is what makes you gentle and fierce, compassionate yet strong. But this flame, as beautiful as it is is not infinite. It needs tending. It needs care. It needs you to protect it, because if you give it away to every passing hand, you will wake one day to find yourself burned out, dimmed, empty, and wondering where your light went. Protect your energy like it is sacred, because it is. Every day, the world pulls at your spirit. People bring their stories, their sorrows, their expectations, their chaos. They may not mean harm, but not everyone knows how to hold your light with respect. Some will take your kindness as weakness, your generosity as an invitation, your silence as permission. But you are not required to be a healer for everyone who is broken. You are not the answer to every call. Your purpose is not to pour until you are dry. It is to shine so that others remember their own light. Protecting your energy is not selfish. It is sacred self-respect. It is the recognition that your time, your peace, and your presence are not free for the taking. It is understanding that every yes you give has a cost, and every time you say no, you honor yourself a little more. When you begin to see your energy as precious, you stop scattering it in places where it's not valued. You stop chasing after people who only come to take. You stop explaining your boundaries to those who were never meant to understand them. The energy you carry is your life force, the rhythm that guides your emotions, your thoughts, your dreams. When it is clear, your life flows with ease. But when you allow others to drain it, your peace becomes heavy. Your days feel blurred. Your mind loses its stillness. Protecting your energy is choosing clarity over confusion, presence over exhaustion. It's learning that not every invitation deserves your attendance, not every message deserves your reply, and not every problem deserves your solution. You cannot heal in an environment that constantly asks you to abandon yourself. Some people will love the version of you that gives endlessly, but will disappear when you start choosing yourself. Let them go. You cannot protect your energy while trying to convince others of your worth. The truth is, your worth was never meant to be debated. It was meant to be honored. First by you, then by those who are allowed to stay. Protecting your energy also means protecting your thoughts. The mind is sacred ground, and not every idea or opinion deserves to live there. Be mindful of what you consume, the conversations you entertain, the media you absorb, the company you keep. Energy is contagious. You can absorb sadness that isn't yours, anger that doesn't belong to you, chaos that was never meant to enter your calm. That's why awareness matters. Protect your mind from noise and your heart from unnecessary battles. Peace grows in the spaces where you stop feeding your distractions. There is strength in walking away quietly. You don't have to explain your absence or justify your boundaries. Peace doesn't always make sense to those who thrive on noise. When you choose peace, you will confuse people who are addicted to conflict. But do not let that pull you back into the storm. Protecting your energy means learning to be misunderstood and staying soft anyway. It means walking away without resentment because you finally understand that not every battle is yours to fight. Your energy is also the reflection of how you treat yourself. Protect it by speaking kindly to your soul. Rest when your spirit feels tired. Breathe when your heart feels heavy. Give yourself permission to pause without guilt. There is a difference between quitting and healing. Protecting your energy means listening to your body, trusting your intuition, and knowing that doing less does not make you less. Sometimes the most powerful act is simply to be still, to do nothing and let your soul catch up with your body. You cannot give from an empty well. You cannot bring light into the world if your own flame is flickering. Protect your energy by filling yourself first. Read things that nourish you. Spend time in nature. Surround yourself with those who make you feel alive, not drained. Let laughter return to your life. Let quiet mornings or soft nights remind you that your peace is a prayer, not a privilege. The more you protect it, the more you will attract people and experiences that honor it too. Protecting your energy is also knowing when to let go of what no longer serves you. There are situations that once felt right, but now feel heavy. There are people who once aligned with your spirit, but now disturb your calm. That is not a failure, it is growth. Energy changes as you evolve, and not everything is meant to go where you are going. The higher your peace rises, the quieter your circle becomes. You begin to realize that solitude is not loneliness, it is sacred space for renewal. When you protect your energy, you stop confusing being busy with being fulfilled. You learn that peace doesn't come from doing more. It comes from doing what aligns with your soul. You stop rushing. You stop proving. You stop explaining. You start living with intention. Every yes becomes sacred. Every no becomes an act of self-love. You start to walk through the world lighter because you are no longer carrying the weight of everyone else's emotions. Protecting your energy also means forgiving, not for others, but for yourself. Holding on to anger poisons your spirit and dims your light. Let it go. Forgiveness is not approval, it's release. It's the moment you stop allowing what hurt you to control your energy. Bitterness and peace cannot live in the same space. Choose peace. Protect your energy from the past by refusing to relive it. What's gone has already taught you what it needed to. Now let it rest. Every morning when you rise, your energy resets. You are handed a new chance to decide where it goes. Do not give your fresh light to yesterday's darkness. Move through your day with intention, choosing who and what gets access to your peace. Protecting your energy is not about closing your heart. It's about keeping your heart open only to what nurtures it. It's about loving yourself enough to say, I will not trade my calm for chaos. The more you guard your energy, the brighter your light becomes. You stop dimming to make others comfortable. You stop bending to fit where you no longer belong. You become rooted, calm, clear, whole. And from that place, you no longer chase peace. You are peace. Because when you finally understand the sacredness of your own energy, you stop living for the world and start living from your soul. There comes a moment when the heart grows tired of holding on to what was never meant to stay. You wake one morning and realize you've been gripping so tightly to people, to outcomes, to expectations, that your own peace has begun to slip through your fingers. That moment is sacred. It is the moment life invites you to step away from attachment and walk into acceptance. It is the quiet realization that love does not have to mean control, and peace does not require everything to go your way. It is the awakening of the soul that whispers, you can still care deeply and still let go. Attachment is the thread that ties your happiness to something outside of yourself. It says, I'll be at peace when they stay, when they understand me, when this situation changes, when life gives me what I want. But life, in its infinite wisdom, does not bend to our demands. It flows where it must. And the more we try to control its direction, the more we suffer. Acceptance, on the other hand, is freedom. It says, even if it doesn't go my way, I will still be okay. It's not giving up. It's growing up. It's learning to breathe even when things don't unfold the way you imagined. To replace attachment with acceptance is to stop bargaining with reality. It's to stop arguing with what already is. We spend so much time replaying moments that can't be changed, analyzing words that can't be unsaid, hoping people will become who we want them to be. But the truth is simple. Peace cannot exist where resistance lives. You cannot hold the river still and expect to find calm. Acceptance is the art of floating, of trusting the current, of knowing that even if the water feels rough, it is still carrying you where you need to go. Attachment often hides beneath love. We cling because we care. We want to hold on to what once made us feel alive. But real love is not a cage, it's an open hand. When you love with attachment, you say, "Stay because I need you." When you love with acceptance, you say, "Go if you must, and I will still bless you." That is not weakness, that is the highest form of strength. To love without ownership is to love purely, to appreciate what something brings into your life without needing to trap it there. Acceptance asks you to release the illusion of control. It invites you to surrender, not in defeat, but in trust. You may not understand why something ended, why someone left, or why life took a turn you didn't expect, but you can trust that there is meaning beyond your knowing. The universe is not cruel, it is careful. It removes what no longer aligns with your growth, even when your heart is still attached to it. And when you stop resisting that truth, you find peace rising from places you thought were broken forever. Replacing attachment with acceptance does not mean you stop feeling. It means you allow yourself to feel fully without fighting your emotions, without pretending, without running. You let sadness wash over you when it needs to, and you let joy return when it's ready. You no longer cling to happiness out of fear that it will fade, nor do you drown in pain thinking it will last forever. You understand that both are visitors. They come and go, and each leaves a gift behind. This is the wisdom of acceptance. Everything changes, and that's okay. So many of us carry pain because we keep trying to rewrite what has already been written. We look back at people who hurt us, wishing they could see what they lost. We cling to dreams that didn't unfold, hoping life will give us another chance to make them right. But acceptance whispers, you are not meant to relive what has already taught you. The lesson was the purpose. The experience was the teacher. The moment you understand that, the weight begins to lift. You no longer need closure from the outside world because you found it within yourself. Acceptance also changes the way you see people. You stop trying to mold them into your version of better. You stop taking it personally when they cannot give you the love or understanding you desire. You begin to see that everyone is walking their own path, shaped by their own wounds, fears, and lessons. And you learn to meet them where they are, not where you wish they'd be. Acceptance brings compassion. It allows you to love people for who they are, not for who you think they could become. When you live from attachment, you live in constant tension, always reaching, grasping, waiting for life to deliver what you believe you need. But when you live from acceptance, you breathe easier. You begin to find joy in the present moment, in the ordinary grace of what's already here. You start noticing the beauty in the small things, the morning light, the sound of laughter, the warmth of your own breath. You stop chasing what might come tomorrow and start appreciating what exists today. Acceptance does not mean resignation. It does not mean you stop desiring or dreaming. It simply means you learn to hold your dreams lightly. You set your intentions, you do your best, and then you release the outcome. You stop demanding life to meet your timeline, and you start trusting divine timing. You stop measuring your worth by what stays or what leaves, and you begin to understand that nothing truly meant for you can ever pass you by. That understanding is peace. That understanding is power. The moment you stop clinging, life begins to move again. Space opens, energy flows, new blessings start to find you, the kind you could never have received while your hands were still holding on to the past. That is how acceptance transforms you. It turns endings into beginnings, pain into wisdom, emptiness into room for grace. Acceptance is quiet. It does not announce itself. It grows slowly, like light entering a dark room. One day you'll wake up and realize that the thing that used to break you no longer has power over you. You'll think of what you've lost, and instead of tears, you'll feel gratitude. Gratitude for the lessons, for the love, for the growth. That's when you'll know. You have replaced attachment with acceptance, and in that moment, your heart will feel lighter. You will no longer chase or resist. You will simply exist, fully present, fully whole. You will understand that life's beauty has never depended on its certainty. You will finally rest in the truth that peace does not come from getting everything you want. It comes from accepting everything you have. There is a stillness inside you that has never been touched by noise. Beneath all the rushing thoughts, beneath the ache of the world, beneath the stories your mind tells you about who you are or what you lack, there lies a quiet, eternal peace. It does not need to be built, it only needs to be remembered. For it was there before fear ever learned your name. It was there before you learned to compare, to compete, to prove. It was there before the world told you that your worth must be earned. That stillness, your inner sanctuary, has been waiting patiently for you to return. To reconnect with your inner stillness is to come home to yourself. It is to stop chasing calm in people, possessions, or promises, and realize that the calm you seek has been whispering from within all along. The world has taught you to run, to keep filling the silence, to keep scrolling, to keep doing, as if your value were measured by your movement. But stillness asks for the opposite. It asks for pause. It asks for listening. It asks for you to lay down your burdens for just a moment and remember that peace is not something you have to find. It is something you allow. We spend our days surrounded by noise. The noise of the world, of opinions, of expectations, of endless comparisons that tell us who we should be. The noise grows so loud that we forget what our own voice sounds like. We forget what it feels like to breathe without urgency, to exist without demand. That is why stillness feels foreign to so many, because we have forgotten how to be with ourselves without needing to fix, change, or explain. But stillness is not empty. It is full of truth, full of clarity, full of the quiet strength that waits when you stop searching. When you reconnect with your inner stillness, you begin to see differently. You begin to notice how often the world moves from fear of not being enough, fear of missing out, fear of being alone. And you realize how many of your own choices have been shaped by that same fear. But in stillness, fear loses its power. In stillness, you remember that you were not created to chase validation. You were created to embody peace. Every time you return to your breath, every time you sit in silence and simply be, you are returning to the truth of who you are. Stillness is not found by force. You cannot demand it, and you cannot schedule it into your day like an appointment. It arrives when you make space for it. It appears in the moments when you put your phone down, when you turn off the noise, when you let yourself feel without distraction. It lives in the pauses between your thoughts, in the breath you almost forget to take. It is there in the softness of morning light, in the rhythm of the rain, in the steady beating of your heart, reminding you that life continues even when you do nothing. Reconnecting with stillness is an act of remembering your own rhythm. The world moves fast, but your soul does not. The soul does not rush. It knows that growth is quiet, that healing takes time, that beauty is often born in the unseen spaces. When you begin to slow down and match the rhythm of your spirit instead of the rhythm of the world, you begin to heal. You begin to see that peace isn't something waiting for you at the end of your to-do list. It is what holds you steady as you walk through each task, each moment, each day. It takes courage to be still. Because when you become still, the noise you've been running from begins to rise. The emotions you've ignored begin to surface. The thoughts you've buried begin to speak. But this is not something to fear. It is something to honor. The things that rise in stillness are not there to harm you. They are there to be seen, to be understood, to be released. That is how healing begins, not by running away from what hurts, but by sitting with it long enough to hear what it's trying to teach you. When you practice stillness, you begin to realize how often you've mistaken motion for progress. You've been taught that doing more means living more, that success means speed. But peace is not found in how much you accomplish. It's found in how present you are in each moment. Stillness returns you to that presence. It teaches you that you can move through life without letting the world move through you. You can work, create, and love deeply, yet remain anchored in calm. Stillness is not the absence of life. It is the foundation that allows you to live it fully. In moments of stillness, you will meet yourself again, the self that existed before the noise, before the wounds, before the world told you who you should be. You will remember the gentle, untamed parts of you, the part that loves without condition, the part that sees beauty in small things, the part that believes in beginnings even after endings. That is the power of stillness. It brings you face to face with your soul, and your soul has always known the way home. When you reconnect with that stillness, everything begins to shift. You stop reacting to life and start responding to it. You stop needing everything to make sense and start trusting the flow of it. You realize that peace is not about escaping chaos, but about carrying calm within you wherever you go. The outer world may still be loud, but you learn how to listen from a quieter place. You stop absorbing the world's noise, and instead you become a vessel of quiet strength that steadies others simply by being. Stillness is not about sitting in silence for hours or living in isolation. It is a way of being, a state of mind that you can carry anywhere. You can find stillness while walking through a crowded street, while washing dishes, while holding someone's hand. It is the awareness that behind all the noise and movement, there is something steady inside you that does not change. That stillness is the truth of who you are. And every time you touch it, even for a second, you return to that truth. There will be times when the world feels too loud, when your mind feels restless, when peace feels far away. But that is not because stillness has left you. It's because you have turned away from it. It never leaves. It waits patiently, like an old friend, ready to welcome you back the moment you remember to listen. And when you do, you realize that peace was never lost. It was only covered by the noise of living. So breathe, slow down, let your shoulders drop, let your mind rest. Feel the quiet rise within you like a soft tide returning to shore. This stillness is not fragile. It is your strength. It is the place where you meet God, where you meet peace, where you meet yourself. It is the reminder